Ready to go.
There we go. That's music to my ears.
Right.
Shall we fire into it, lads?
Yeah, that's great.
Absolutely. I'm ready to go.
I'm ready.
Welcome, everybody. This is a special episode of the Bullpen Podcast because instead of mine and Jamie's lovely faces, we get an additional two lovely faces from one across the pond and one from a little bit up north.
Yes.
So we've got John and Jason from the Ballcaps and Bagpipes podcast, podcast that deals with mainly Scottish baseball, isn't it?
Yeah,
it almost delve into other stuff as well.
Yeah, it's almost exclusively Scottish baseball now. We touch on Major League Baseball from time to time, but we focus primarily on the Scottish game these days. I think it's a testament to how much the game has grown in Scotland in just the last couple of years since we've been doing the show that we're able to do like a 40-45 minute show just on Scottish baseball now.
Okay. I mean, we've spoke to a few people sort of like that deal with English baseball, and we always sort of ask them like, how did it begin? Like because it's not really a well-established sport over here, is it, compared to in the States? So how did you find yourself sort of becoming a fan?
So my co-host Jason there, he's been obviously involved in baseball for around 40 years since he was a kid. Myself, I became interested in, so my interest in most North American sports comes from the same place, which is video games. In the mid-90s, I became a basketball and a hockey fan through Sega, NBA and NHL games. So I became a Bulls fan and a New York Rangers fan, as you can see. So from there, I became a bigger hockey fan than basketball, and I started to kind of watch it regularly back in the Channel 5 days. And obviously knowing that being a hockey fan and watching that on Channel 5, I was vaguely aware they also carried baseball. And where my love of baseball came from was just one weekend in 2001. We used to, at the weekends, we would rent a video game out of like Global Video back in the olden times.
Is that the Blockbusters days?
Yeah. And so one weekend, saw All-Star Baseball 2002, which was a PS2 game. And, I was like, oh, yeah, so fancy something a wee bit different this weekend, so I'll play some baseball games. Played it. I was really confused by it, but also so I thought, I'm going to watch a game or two on Channel 5, and see what it's all about. Watched a couple of games and pretty much instantly fell in love with the game. The rest of that season, I spent pretty much obsessing over baseball, trying to learn all the rules, learning all the teams and the best players and stuff like that. I think it was a very unique season to tune in, with it being 2001, Barry Bonds 73 home runs, the outstanding World Series after 9/11 and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, of course.
So from then on, I just became completely hooked, and I became involved with the playing side of it at 25 years old in 2013.
Okay.
So yeah, that's pretty much been my journey. We'll go into it, I think, in more depth. But Jason, I'll let you take your shot here.
I'm going to date myself here. So I go back to the 1981 Little League World Series. Is what got me inspired in baseball here. It happened to be the first time the U.S. happened to win after like 6 years of losing to Taiwan. And it was a Little League team literally 10 minutes down the road for I won. And these guys were rock stars. They were on TV constantly. They were being interviewed. I said, you know what? I like this. I want to get into baseball this way. So it literally all started from there.
Excellent.
That's awesome. Yeah.
And how did you find yourself in the baseball game actually in Scotland?
So I was, it was a 2-week holiday. It's turned into almost 20 years now. And I was working at a hostel and I had picked up a timeout and I saw there was a baseball team here. And I was like, oh, well, maybe I can get involved some way and help out. I had no idea if it was an amateur team. I just thought, oh, there's baseball. And I go check it out. And so went on down to the field. And there was just 15 guys that were all amateur that just loved the game there. And so I was like, okay, well, all of a sudden I have 15 guys I can chat with it, no problem. We can talk baseball. And I went from playing to coaching to running the league within a span of about 5 years.
Yeah, and what made you fall in love with Scotland as well?
It was just I needed a bit of a break. I did the .coms, and there was just no jobs back in Seattle where I'm from. So I was literally working, probably 16-hour days, just kind of doing two different jobs. And I was just thinking about going into grad school or something else and I was just like, okay, well, I've saved up a bunch of money. I'm gonna go take a 2-week trip, and I've never come back from it. So, but I'm laughing here. So this is my man cave here, and it's literally I live in Newtown, so it's a 160-year-old toilet. So this toilet's older than Seattle.
And John, just tell us how much of a legend Jason is in the Scottish game.
There are probably one or two figures in Scottish baseball that are in the kind of same stratosphere that Jason is. If that, Jason's kind of in like an upper tier alongside it. There's a long-serving umpire in Edinburgh called Gordon. He's affectionately known as Wolfie. He's been involved in the game for the better part of, I think, 50 years in Scotland. He's been there during sort of the earliest days of baseball in Scotland, and he's experienced and seen it all. He's done everything. He's coached and he's umpired and all the rest of it. So Wolfie, I would probably say that Jason is in a tier with him, and maybe one or two others at most. He's Jason is in large part responsible for the growth of baseball in Scotland over the last decade. I think his time as president really laid the foundation and the groundwork for the current president of the league, Paul Convoy, and some of the things he's been able to implement. I think a lot of the work that Jason put into building the profile of the game in this country, that really allowed us to grow the league into what it's becoming now. So I think we were speaking with Paul Convoy, the Scottish League current president, in the most recent episode that we did. And we joked that there's going to be a statue of Jason due to be built in Edinburgh. And I think that's pretty much an accurate portrayal of exactly what he means to sport in this country.
How does it feel that you've literally built an entire sport from scratch, like from sort of small foundations to what it is now? Like you've pretty much built this yourself, like it's your own input and everything. Like how does that feel that you've managed to achieve that in such a small space of time as well?
I think a lot of it just had to do with just being a perfect storm. So you kind of had the rise of the internet, so people could watch baseball at least online. They could all of a sudden find this baseball out there, because a lot of people were like, okay, so you're talking the early 2000s. You had a lot of people that were worked in bars and pubs because they would get home and the only thing on at 2:00 in the morning was baseball. And they're kind of like, well, I've been watching this game for 6 months now. I might as well give it a go. And so it was just a kind of combination of social media, internet. You forget about the Nintendo Wii had baseball on it. So we had a lot of people that played the Wii. And I said, okay, well, I'm enjoying playing on the Wii. So I can't take credit for building it there. It was just kind of a combination of things there. Plus, the teams were already established. There's been baseball in Scotland since the early 30s in one form or another. So, I mean, if Wolfie's correct, in the 90s, there was 30 teams in Scotland. So, it kind of comes in waves and people go, okay, I want to play baseball. And, right now we're in a great wave of people all joining, and it's great. It's great to see the game get where it is now.
He always does this. He does this on our show all the time. He sells himself short. Jason's responsible for a lot of those teams leading towards a structured league system in Scotland. A lot of that is off his back. He's largely correct about everything else, but he sells himself short in terms of his actual importance to that process.
So from speaking to all the guests that you've had on your podcast sort of recently, what's the general feeling about the game going forward then? Does it sound like it's going to progress and build up to something bigger that you hope?
Absolutely, yeah. On the most recent episode, which was like a bonus episode after the season 3 finale, when we spoke to Paul, he had a lot of really interesting announcements that he made in recent weeks, including like a multi-tier division system. So there's going to be a AAA division and a single A division moving forward, which just by default, by its very nature of being, is going to make the AAA level that much better. It will be tighter defensively. The pitching is going to be the best pitching. You're going to see the best talents against each other, and it's going to be more of an organised game in that sense. And it means that you're going to you're not going to see like ludicrous scores of like Sunday league style baseball every week like we have in the past. We're going to have a single A level as well, where people like myself who maybe don't play to like a certain level are going to get a chance to get playing time against kind of similar talent level players, or first year kind of people coming into the league. So everyone's going to get as well more playing time, which is going to just, I think, grow interest in the sport as it goes along. I'm very excited myself about the next year or two, and where we might go from there. And I know that from talking to other people across the league this past season, there is just a kind of air of momentum and forward motion. But the pandemic aside, obviously that the pandemic has affected as it has every other sport in the world.
Yeah, and especially smaller sports with sort of smaller crowds that have been hit hardest, really.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen in the last couple of years quite a bit of growth in terms of there were two teams that were in the league a couple of years ago that are now no longer there because there's just been a natural drop-off of people being interested in the game after the kind of long layoff due to the pandemic shutdowns. But even with that in mind, like there is a layer of excitement and just a sense of forward motion and momentum that we're going to grow the sport even more next year, and then moving forward from year to year, it's looking like things are going to trend upwards for the near future. That's
awesome. Yeah, I mean, it's just so like it's on its way up, and which is it's good for the competitive sport in Scotland as a whole as well. It just sort of gives, if there's a Scottish international team at some point, it gives that a platform to build on, and if you've got a really decent pool of players to pick from, then it's always worth it, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's also it's great for baseball UK wide as well. Like we've in the last couple of years been able to field teams that went down to England and played again. And England has got some really talented players and some really great teams who are they could probably hang with some of the best teams in Europe. And we've been able to go down and compete with them and be competitive in tournaments. So I think, and Jason will tell you, like, that was probably something that we wouldn't have been able to imagine happening on a consistent basis when he first took over. And when you look at how much the game's grown in terms of just the ability of the players, the commitment level and the structure, it's night and day difference.
You mentioned about baseball in the UK as a whole. I mean, me and Jamie touched on the recent-ish, the series that they held in London a couple of years ago now, I think it was. Which I think
2019.
Yeah, that's right. Sort of on the coattails of like NFL in London, how that's sort of transformed into not just an American sport now. It's sort of like a worldwide brand and a worldwide appeal. And I think, would you want to see baseball do a similar thing to that? Like, does it feel like it's going to dilute the sport at all, or do you think that the bigger reach it has, the better sport it will be?
So Jason and I have very divergent opinions on this, I think, so I'm going to let him go first.
So the funny thing is the baseball is a very small sport in the UK. It's huge almost everywhere else in the globe. You head over to Italy, Netherlands, France, Spain. It's quite regularly played. The best player in baseball is Japanese. So it's a real hard one there where, people play cricket. And I think for us, if we can get cricket players that play baseball, then you'll be able to pick it up much quicker. But there's not a whole lot of we call it hand-eye coordination games here. Everyone uses your foot, or you use rugby and you run. And so we've all grown up with that. So when John talks about the difference between AAA and single A, you're getting mostly expats who have gotten tens of thousands of cuts, and a batting cage, and I've seen the ball there. And we literally have guys who've gone, I just came back from Toronto. I saw a baseball game and I have a glove, and you have to teach them from that there. So, I'd love to see the game, expand here. You're seeing people that have, definitely British born and gone to play in the States and done quite well now. So it's, really encouraging there. I'm all for expansion over here and getting more games here. I believe the rumors are they're looking at Berlin for the next series to come out this way.
Okay. That'd be cool. It would be, it's a strange choice. To me personally, I wouldn't have put Germany on the baseball map, but I mean, probably more than I do, Jason. Are they a baseball country, or are they trying to be?
They are. So we've played a couple of European tournaments, and we usually get smoked by the opposing teams because they actually play a lot better there. So we know that we've beaten. Finland. That's the only country we've beaten currently. But all these countries all play at a much higher level than we do, excluding, say, the National League down in London. They're obviously at the best level there, and they're definitely hanging with all the European teams. But yeah, Germany's baseball mad. I think they have 8 different divisions of play over there. So it's much different once you hit the continent.
Nice. Yeah. I mean, it surprises me generally, but yeah, I think the more countries it reaches, the better. It's my personal opinion on it anyway. I don't know if you agree with that, John or Jason.
Yeah,
so I think go ahead, John.
Yeah, I'm not such a big fan of MLB in Europe. I base it more or less on the London series 2 years ago. I always call it the circus series. I wasn't a big fan. It just didn't feel like a proper baseball game to me. It felt like I was watching Scottish baseball at times. The field and the stadium set up just wasn't conducive to good baseball. You had like a 12-11 scoreline after like an inning. I found that absolutely ludicrous. It was like it was in a lot of the kind of sideshow stuff that they had going on. Just made it felt like the crowd was mostly made up of people who are already baseball fans. And then the presentation of it felt like it was being marketed to people who have no idea what baseball even is. So there was a bit of a kind of disconnect there, and it just ended up feeling for me like a complete gimmick. And these were regular season games that counted. So I don't. Beyond the Yankees winning both games, I wasn't particularly happy with what I was seeing. And I don't think, based on what I saw in the London series 2019, that it led to any kind of uptick in interest up here anyway in the league. Like there was never anyone who came along to training in Glasgow and said, "Oh, I saw the London series and I was really interested in giving baseball a go." It just kind of felt like a pointless exercise and a bit of a money-making racket, quite honestly. So if it's going to continue to be along those lines, I would rather watch the games from sort of Fenway or Yankee Stadium or whatever ballpark the home team happens to play in. It's the jibe for me.
Well, we've struggled in the past, haven't we, Jamie, trying to get people involved or interested in sort of baseball to begin with. When we first started this podcast, it was just a baseball podcast. And we will tell people, "Oh, yeah, it's a podcast about baseball." And the first question would be, "Well, why?" It's so hard to get people interested in sport they've never seen before. They've probably seen snippets of it and from like movies and whatever, but trying to get them to sit down and watch a game, and it's so hard to get that interest to begin with.
Yeah, I think it's also hard because you're trying to do it over TV, and it's not the same as the atmosphere of a game, and having a beer and a hot dog and a pretzel, and being able to walk around the stadium, and when you never see 100-mile-per-hour fastball at a game that you're like literally 60 feet away from, you go, okay, that looks a lot faster in person than it does on TV.
I mean, that was my first experience with the live game. I think it was 2015, and I watched it was the Padres and the Diamondbacks, and it was like an end of season game where I think the Padres were already confirmed as finishing like dead last, as they always seem to. But even the atmosphere there, it was like a half full stadium, but it was just such a cool atmosphere it was so relaxed compared to like a football crowd where there's so much tension all the time, and it felt like there was like it was a connection between the opposing fans rather than, well, we hate you and you hate us, and we're going to tell you we hate you. And go on, sorry.
Yeah, I think that there's definitely a kind of a cultural barrier that exists there between American sports and UK based sports. Like football it's quite highly charged energy at a football stadium. And you go to a football stadium expecting a shouting match between you and the opposing fans, whereas you go to baseball or even some of the more highly charged sports in North America, like American football or hockey or basketball, there's never really the kind of back and forth between fans that you expect in the UK, particularly with football. So I think that's another reason that kind of games over here don't sort of mesh for me, because the crowds are so very different. I mean, you see it with I don't know how much you guys watch WWE, but like you see that I think when WWE go and do Raw in Manchester or London or something like that, the crowd is just completely different, and it's quite jarring. It's a jarring change from what you see week to week.
I've got across you so many times, Jamie. Sorry.
I was recently up in Scotland, and I went to watch Montrose versus Peterhead in the football, and there wasn't any segregated crowd or anything, and it was kind of 90 minutes of let's just call the referee for 90 minutes. But yeah, I'd imagine that was kind of quite a relaxed kind of sort of experience compared to kind of even our local team Mansfield, which would be kind of let's just give it to the other fans kind of stuff.
Even with baseball, you're talking about a 162 game schedule, so it's a marathon, not a sprint. So you lose a game, like, okay, well, there's always tomorrow.
Yeah.
Except when you're the Padres this season, you lose like 12 games in a row. It's just like, okay, there's not going to be tomorrow because tomorrow's going to be another defeat.
Yeah, they had a strange season, that's for sure.
How much of a waste of money is that that kind of squad starting to look for the Padres already?
Is that what? Sorry.
The squad the Padres have put together looks on paper like it should be formidable, but it's looking like a bit of a waste of money so far, I think.
It sounds like the Yankees a lot.
Yeah, unfortunately, in recent times, absolutely.
I think I heard someone say about the Yankees that they want to try and build a youth culture again after so many years of like big spending, but how's that going to go down with their fans that sort of expect success like instantly?
Yeah, and I think you're kind of shooting yourself in the foot out of the starting blocks doing that. I mean, just a few years ago, we tried to do that. We tried to kind of reboot, and it was going very well. And Joe Girardi became within one game of the World Series, probably 2 years ahead of what people would have anticipated. Now those guys are hitting what should be their prime, and they haven't really progressed much. So it makes you kind of wonder if it's the players or if there's a problem with the culture at the Yankees, where if we were to do this again, if we were to reboot and do another kind of baby boomers rebuild, is the same thing going to happen? With the current sort of front office and Aaron Boone, as much as I loved him as a player, and I do like him as a manager, I don't think he's the guy to take us forward. You know, I fear that if we were to try that again, is it going to be a case where we're going to be like also Rans or nearly was kind of second tier team that almost gets there, and then we kind of waste the primes of more young talented players? Like, these guys should really have progressed into what should be their prime now, and I think only Aaron Judge has done that. So it's concerning that there's, it looks to me like there's a problem with culture at the club and how they develop players, and it's beginning to really be it's not a great time to be a Yankee fan.
I mean, I'm sure you can go a couple of years without winning a trophy. I'm sure it's not going to hurt too much.
I mean, 12 years is like it's like Liverpool finally winning the Premier League last year after 30 years. Like, I think 12 years as a Yankee fan is the equivalent of that. So it's already panic stations from the Yankee fans. The fact I've only seen one in the 20 years I've been a fan. You're kind of spoiled, admittedly. Or it's like being a fan of the old firm up here. They're expected to win every year. It's not something that's feasible in a sport like baseball. There's a lot more parity in American sports than there is in football. But even still, with the payroll, with the talent that the Yankees put out every year, it is expected that they would win more often. And like I say, we've come very close in 2017, one game away from the World Series, and we've regressed every season since then. We've fallen off in like an earlier round of the playoffs every year since Aaron Boone came in. So it's definitely panic stations already for Yankee fans after 12 years of that title.
We were quite surprised, Jamie, about your team, the Red Sox, being so close this season, weren't we?
Yeah, but it's kind of a weird season for them where they just didn't seem to be anywhere until September, and then all of a sudden, it's October, and then the playoffs. So as you say, it's kind of a sprint, isn't it? A marathon even rather than a sprint. But yeah, the first year following them, they won the World Series, so I got lucky there, I think, and then I don't know after that. But
my first year following So yeah, my first year following the Yankees was the year that the dynasty, as they called it, ended. So they won 3 in a row, and then the year I started watching, they lost the World Series to the Diamondbacks.
I mean, that was the first one after like 84. Was it 84 years, something like that, Jamie?
First,
yeah, it was a long time, wasn't it? A long time.
You broke the curse.
Broke the curse.
Yeah, that was me. It's nothing to do with the players. It's all down to me.
Discussion of the 2004 ALCS result is actually forbidden on Ballcaps and Bagpipes.
Is it really?
Anything Jason tries to bring it up, I get amnesia. I guess I have amnesia about the game 5 onwards.
Yeah.
Game 4 onwards.
Yeah. That was still the Channel 5 days, and that I think the final game went to like 6 o'clock in the morning, and they left the game because they had to go to the children's TV program schedule, and so I had to wait till about 10 o'clock to go down to the library to go on the internet to find out what the result was.
Oh,
but,
wow.
Yeah, so that's. Yeah, we kind of talk about kind of films, movies, and music and stuff. Which is your favorite baseball movie?
Mine's pretty obvious. It's right behind me here. I've got my major league cards up here. So
Nice.
So it's kind of a 1A, 1B, and the other one being Bull Durham. So yeah, Major League Bull Durham, or I can't say I like one better than the other. I like them both.
Yeah.
So I don't really have a favorite baseball movie as such. I do have a favorite baseball TV show. It was called The Bronx is Burning.
Okay.
It was the story of the 1977 Yankees set to the backdrop of the 44 caliber killer and the heat wave that engulfed New York in 1977. I think it was done by ESPN in association with HBO or something like that. I got it via other means, let's say. But I really loved that. John Turturro played Billy Barton, I remember, and just some of the exploits of that particular team were just kind of a bit stranger than fiction, and seeing that kind of fictionalized version of it and just how mental that season was for the Yankees, it was an exciting show. I like Eastbound and Down as well, but that's more than the baseball.
I mean, I can't say much. When the last time they made a movie about my favourite team, Newcastle United, it was one of the worst films of all time. I don't know if you've ever seen it. It's just called Goal, and it sort of follows the story of this. I think he's a Brazilian teenager that finds his way into the Newcastle Academy, and then he becomes like a league winner, Champions League winner. He gets moved to like Real Madrid, and each movie is progressively worse and worse. It's just.
That wasn't the ones with Robert Duvall, was it? What was the one Robert Duvall was in that had Alan McCoist? Was that film?
Oh, I've blocked a lot of it out of my memory, to be fair. It's just locked away.
Yeah, I know Robert Duvall was in a film with Alan McCoist.
That's right. My team's only been in Naked Gun. That's the only movie I can think of. My team's been in.
It's a great movie, though. Let's be honest.
Yeah. The baseball scenes are fantastic.
So realistic.
I think Wolfie learned the umpire from Leslie Nielsen, actually.
Your favourite, Jamie, is I forgot now. What's your favourite? You always tell me. You always tell me I'm wrong.
I do like A League of Their Own, because who doesn't love Tom Hanks and Madonna and the other people? So, but yeah, to be fair, I do it quite a bit just to wind you up. But I do love that film. Yeah.
Field of Dreams all day long for me.
Field of Dreams is a great one. Yeah.
But
Did you enjoy the Field of Dreams game?
The what? Sorry.
Did you enjoy the Field of Dreams game this past season?
Yeah. I think we covered it briefly on the pod, didn't we?
I think so. Yeah. Yeah. I can't remember it.
It was. I can remember the lead up to it on social media was just massive. Like the attention that game got this season was incredible. And to be a fan there on the day, it must have been absolutely magical, I imagine.
I love that they went pure full ham as well, getting Kevin Costner to come out and do
Yeah.
pure kind of introduction and shit. They just went all the way in. It's like this is pure American cheese, and I'm here for it.
Yeah, but we're good at that. Come on now.
Absolutely, yeah. If there's one thing you guys are good at, it's putting together like a spectacle.
I'm trying to think. I know it's coming back next year if we have a season, but I can't remember who's supposed to be playing.
Hopefully, I imagine next season should be, fingers crossed, back to normal.
I've already lived through 2 streaks now, so I'm hoping everything's back there. We'll see. We'll know more come February, and that's when everyone starts getting a little bit nervous.
Oh, by the way, the film with Ali McCoyston is a shot at glory.
Oh, Short of Glory, that's right. Yeah.
Jesus.
It's got to be worth a watch.
Yeah, we're gonna have to watch that one, aren't we?
Yeah.
Ali McCoy just sells it for me.
Yeah.
Anything else, Jamie?
I can't think of anything. Is there anything you'd like to ask us? Maybe.
Yeah, what's your guys' background in baseball? I'm very curious.
Channel 5, really. I was just up late at night, and then needed something on in the background, and then it was it was the year that the Marlins won the World Series. So
2003.
That's the one, yeah. So that was my introduction to baseball, and then kind of stuck since then.
That was a lot of bad baseball. Those were Wednesday and Sunday nights. Like, you didn't get good teams. You just got everything you could get.
Yeah. No, I was quite happy to get whatever I could get my hands on at the time. It was it was interesting. I guess coming from a cricket background, it was kind of interesting to see how different things are done. The kind of the standards of the fielding and stuff, and just the power of the hitting, which I think is something that's been introduced into cricket, as kind of the range hitting that's developed, I guess, as a consequence of kind of looking at baseball and how that's done.
Some terrifying speeds in that game. Yeah, mine was the like I say, the game against the Diamondbacks in 2015. And I don't know what, I just found myself in San Diego and happened to walk past the stadium, I think the day before the game, and said to one of my friends, I was like, well, while we're here, we might as well see a game. And I think because it was the back end of the season, I don't know what the tickets are like trying to get them sort of early in the season, but we managed to get tickets quite easily and quite cheaply. And yeah, we were just blown away by the whole experience. Like, just the fact that there was people that went to get a drink and a hot dog and then sat down for like half an hour. And then we're like, okay, we'll go for an hour and we'll come back in a bit. It's just like, it was so alien to me. Like, once you sit down at a sport, you're there until the game's done. Mm-hmm. But the so many people were just sort of, oh yeah, we'll watch a bit and then we'll go and we'll come back. And I just fell in love with the Padres without prior knowledge of how good or bad they were.
A lot of bad teams.
Yeah. Although this season, and probably some of last, were quite exciting. The whole Tatis Jr. sort of exploding on the scene. I think John alluded to about the team that on paper looks amazing, but I think a combination of the pitching at times and the coaching have just, it seems a bit naive. So I'm hoping they've got the more experienced coaching now for next season. I'm hoping it's a little bit different. But yeah, ever since then, that's just been my team. And like John said as well, about learning the rules and trying to figure out what's going on from play to play, and is what that guy's done a good thing or a bad thing. And obviously, the more you learn about the sport, the more you enjoy the sport. And I think that's why we did the podcast, I think, to try and learn.
Are you guys going to change the name to the Armbarn Podcast next year? As wishes is what I want to know.
Yeah, we don't want to upset anyone, do we? We don't want Peter on our backs.
Yeah.
That's a death wish.
I think we were thinking of the Bullpen, to be honest.
Yeah.
That's not a bad one. I like that.
Yeah, there were three of us, and the third had more hair than we could ever dream of. So
we got red.
No way.
Just
out of pure jealousy, we told him he's not welcome back.
Right, cousin, you're out.
You're too good looking for us.
So when you were at Petco, did you walk around and check out the whole stadium? Because the best part's the kind of Monument Park out in center field and the dog park.
I mean, the first time I was there, it was pretty much just we sat there and watched the game and then we left. But then the following year, I think we beat the Cubs. I think again that was another late season game, and I had a chance then because I was on my own at that point. I thought, well, I'll walk around and check this place out and stuff. And yeah, I just took it all in. Like, it was just, and I must have looked like the biggest tourist ever because I was like in the, because the sports shop's just around the corner, isn't it? On the sort of a couple of blocks away. I was in there for like 2 hours just looking at everything. And I think I bought a baseball with, I think it was, what was his name? I think it was Giorco. Is that how you pronounce his name?
Yeah, Giorco.
And I think he left like in the summer or at the end of the season. So it was a wasted purchase. I didn't know anything back then. I just bought the first thing I saw. But yeah, it was just cool to walk around and take all that in. Really magical feeling. I wish I picked a better team, but I'm stuck with it now, I think.
I grew up in Seattle, so I'm a Mariners fan. So I've had a lot of bad years there. But my grandparents used to go live in Yuma, Arizona, and that was where the Padres had spring training. So they brought me stuff back. So funny enough, I've got a vintage 1984 National League champion shirt on right now from the Padres, and that was how I became a Padre fan. Was I got stuff from them. So I've been a fan of them since like '82, and yeah, there's a lot of bad years there.
I had a 2022 Stanley Cup winners jersey on right now.
So you frown on ice hockey, don't you, Jamie? You're not a fan.
Well, it's not that I'm not a fan. It's just that as somebody who plays field hockey, it's just like that. That's my sport. So for me, that's hockey. With a ball. So I guess it's just what I've grown up with. So yeah. Trying to get me in trouble with that.
Yeah, we're quite blessed at where we are actually locally, aren't we? Because we've got the Nottingham Panthers really close by if we want to watch a ice hockey game. Yeah,
or if you want to watch a decent one, the Sheffield Steelers up the road.
Well, my team in Edinburgh folded, so I have to go to Glasgow if I want to watch a hockey game now.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to plug apart from the podcasts? Anything else you guys are up to these days?
Well, I actually feature in a documentary on Scottish baseball. It's due to launch on Sunday, January 2nd. It's on YouTube at the channel C. Kelly Edits. So if listeners want to check that out, and they'll get more of my noggin with beard this time. It's only like 11 minutes long. I think it does a great job of telling the story of what baseball in Scotland means to its community, what we're doing to kind of grow the game, and just a wee bit about the kind of everyday life of a baseball player in Scotland. So I would definitely get the guys and girls who listen to check out that documentary, and just check out Baseball Scotland on Facebook or any social media channels to find out more about the league itself. Obviously, you can subscribe to the podcast at Ballcaps and Bagpipes. We're pretty much on all the usual audio apps, and we have a Facebook page as well where you can catch the video archive of the show. I think that's pretty much it, isn't it? You've got
that's it, yeah. We'll talk about our stuff. We'll plug just Baseball Scotland today. I get too many things to plug.
Excellent stuff.
Yeah, well, listen, thanks both of you so much for giving your time and talking to us. I mean, we've learned, like we always do, speak to like-minded fans and fans that know way more than we do. But yeah, hope you guys at the podcast as well. Hope you guys have a great new year.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Yeah, thanks for having us on.
Yeah, thanks for having us on. Merry Christmas, guys.
Yeah.
Happy Hogmanay.
Yes, that too.
So he's American and I'm teetotal, so I don't know how much celebrating we actually do at Hogmanay.
Excellent.
Ballcaps and Bagpipes.
Well, I'm a avid Iron Brew drinker, so you know.
There you go.
So it would be. It is absolutely. I was in Edinburgh recently, and I introduced a guy in my hostel from America to Iron Brew, and he absolutely loved it. So the more people I can convert, the better.
Next time you boys are up, come along to the Edinburgh Field and come along to a game.
Yeah,
that'd be cool.
definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, once this whole thing's under control and a little bit better to trial, I think we'll definitely go up there. Yeah,
Yeah,
100%.
Thanks again for having us, then, guys.
Yeah.
no problem. Excellent.
Speak to you later, guys.
Okay. Cheers.
All
Thank you
all
very
the
much.
best.
Cheers.